It's time for Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast from the Spacebook for the Fandom Podcast Network, with me, Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks and designated driver. How apt. Now, it could be you've heard the show before, but maybe you haven't. Rest assured, there's something for everybody here on Type 40, whatever decade or century you started watching, reading, or listening along to the ongoing adventures of the Time Lord, our hero, Doctor Who. We talk about it all on this show. So come and step into our TARDIS and share this journey here with us on Type 40. Hello. Welcome back. Welcome back to Type 40. Welcome back to the console room. And welcome back to everybody, whether you're from the north, the south, the east, or the west. And yes, speaking of the north, we have a very special episode lined up for you today, both in podcast and video form. And we're talking about one particular Doctor Who legend, a thespian legend too. But before we get to him, I'm going to bring in the latest Doctor Who thespian legend. It's my good friend, yes, and everybody's sort of queen of the north, really. It's Starry Eyed Girl, Sarah Graham.
Hello.
Hello. How are we?
I'm very well, thank you.
In fine voice.
We have sun. Isn't it amazing?
We do have sort of sun, don't we? It's fun in the sun. That may be coming. That's sort of up to the steps and the lockdowns and everything else. But the spirit and the heart is willing, isn't it?
It is.
The British people. I think that's what. Yeah. So, what's this I hear about you joining the thespian community then?
I am part of a little group called the Script Doctors, which was set up by our good friend Neil Heidemann. Some people know him as Mr. Hyde, and he's just changed his name again now. He's called The Geek Inside on YouTube. And he had this wonderful idea of acting out some Doctor Who stories, usually the ones that might have been like middle of the road ones, or they're not quite so good ones. And what we found is over time is, as we've got more confident, we've started ad-libbing and improvising and all sorts of shenanigans. So we've actually made a lot of them better.
So, first of all, I mean, the ones that are not so good, all Doctor Who stories are good. Every Doctor Who story is somebody's favourite, aren't they? But I think I know what you mean. You're talking about those sort of mid-tier stories, aren't you? The kind that sort of raise a smile rather than come top of the award-winning polls and things like that. So stuff like Nightmare of Eden, maybe, and what else? The Creature from the Pit. That kind of thing.
That was our last one. And then on Sunday, do a nice little plug here, we are doing Planet of Fire.
Yes.
And the following that, we've got Time Lash. I mean, come on, it's Time Lash.
The good stuff keeps on coming. So which role are you taking in Planet of Fire?
I'm playing the Doctor. I've got my cricket jumper. I was telling you about this the other day.
You were indeed, yeah.
I was really excited because I found this cricket jumper and hat on eBay, and and it all fits and everything. And then I rewatched the episode, and because they filmed in Lanzarote, he only wears it like in the first minute of the episode. But oh well. Still, you're channeling the Fifth Doctor anyway,
and at the end of the day, you won't be recording it from Lanzarote. I'm sure it's what he would have wanted.
Exactly. I've got the spirit of Davison. I'm gonna have the sticker celery as well.
So this is not so much a group as a company, isn't it? A company of actors. That's the correct phrase. I'm sure Christopher Eccleston himself would approve, because that's what we're here to talk about this time, isn't it? Christopher Eccleston. We're here to celebrate the man himself. He's, mostly because, as of recording today, it is the 17th anniversary of Chris Eccleston's very first announcement as being the Ninth Doctor when it was first put in the press, something like that. I know the BBC social media accounts, they went with a nice big picture of Chris Eccleston just against the stark white backdrop here. And it says 17 years ago Christopher Eccleston was announced as the Ninth Doctor in Doctor Who's return to our screens. So yeah, lots of happy memories to talk about, Sarah. But because Chris Eccleston's your Doctor, is he? Would you say?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, he's certainly my first Doctor, and I've got a lot of happy memories. And he was the one that got me into Doctor Who. So without him and this series, I wouldn't be here now talking to you.
Go. And that would be a disaster, wouldn't it, everybody? An absolute disaster. So yes, please, if you're watching on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more of this conversation and further episodes of Type 40 and Type 40 Live and everything else that we do on YouTube. We're going to get into it about Christopher Eccleston in a moment, about his glorious return, as well as that original appearance back in 2004 and then actually on screen in 2005. But before we get there, it's time to remind you that if you fancy doing some time travel of yourselves, then of yourselves? If you fancy doing some time travel of your own, each and every edition of this show, past, present, and future, is just a tap or two away if you know where to look. And there's details about all of that coming a little bit later on, as well as that bit where we make contact with the matrix of all knowledge. To us, that's the Fandom Podcast Network, to hear about all the other fabulous podcasts on their master feed along with us. Yeah, firstly, though, let's get talking about the Ninth Doctor himself. So, can you remember the very first time that you saw him get announced as the Doctor, Sarah? Was it a case of it made it into the press and it made your radar, or was it some way into the production process that you became aware that Doctor Who was on?
It was really late in the day, actually. I think it was only a couple of weeks before he did the usual round of interviews and the press junket and all that. And I was watching BBC News, the breakfast show.
Yeah.
And he was being interviewed. And then, there was so much publicity for him. The advertising were everywhere. You saw the billboards, the bus shelters and everything with him and Billy Piper and the TARDIS with the doors open the wrong way. Which completely went over my head, by the way, because I didn't realise that was the wrong way for the TARDIS doors to open at the time.
You know what? I loved it. I loved it for that. I thought it symbolised something great, something really inclusive about it. I think if the doors had been open in the correct way, it wouldn't have looked right somehow. It looked like something was beaming out, radiating out from the TARDIS. So I would forgive them that once, just that once.
Well, it had that feel of, throw the doors open to adventure and, come and join us. And obviously that was part of all the trailers and everything. So I saw him on this interview, and he was really animated about it and smiley. And I'd not seen Christopher Eccleston like that before, because I'd only ever seen him in like the serious stuff. I remember watching him in June. We had to study it at college, and my God, it's such a depressing film.
Well, because he'd done a lot of that kind of drama, hadn't he? Very, very serious parts.
Yes.
He was a very respected actor, but he wasn't a name. Most of the British public couldn't pick him out in a crowd, I don't think, couldn't put a name to the face. Is that fair?
I would say so. Maybe his voice. He's got a very distinctive voice. But in terms of his face, I'm trying to think what was his most popular thing here before Doctor Who. Friends in the North. He was in that, wasn't he?
He was massive in Our Friends in the North. Yeah, but I've got on screen to hand now. I have got this. This is the original. This is the original press office release here on the BBC's old website from the day that he was announced, just on the 20th of March 2004. It says, acclaimed British actor Christopher Eccleston is to play Doctor Who in the forthcoming 13-part drama series for BBC One. It was announced by Jane Tranter, BBC Controller of Drama Commissioning. Eccleston, star of Flesh and Blood and The Second Coming, it bills here, will take Doctor Who in the 21st century, travelling through time and space, fighting monsters on all fronts. It's in a fresh and modern approach to the popular science fiction series. He said, I am absolutely delighted to be playing Doctor Who. I'm looking forward to joining forces again with the incredible writer Russell T Davies and taking both loyal viewers and a new generation on a journey through time and space. Which way is the TARDIS? I can't wait to get started. I've got a quote here from Jane Tranter as well. It says, "We are delighted to have cast an actor of such calibre in one of British television's most iconic roles. It signals our intention to take Doctor Who into the 21st century, as well as retaining its core traditional values to be surprising, edgy, and eccentric." A little one from Russell T Davies here. "We considered many great actors for this wonderful part, but Christopher was our first choice." So yeah, lots of people saying the right things. Of course they were. They were ramping up the general public, weren't they, for what was to come. I saw it announced on the internet, funnily enough, that morning. I'd just done a shift at work. I was working nights in publishing at the time, and I came home, got the computer on, and there it was. There was Christopher Eccleston. His name had been mentioned in the run-up quite a few times, Sarah, but I'd sort of dismissed it a little. I wasn't that excited by the prospect, I have to say. It's not that I didn't think he could play the part. It's just that he didn't seem eccentric and all those other things. So it was a weird one. There was an actor I respected, but I couldn't quite imagine him as the Doctor.
Yeah, I mean, he said himself, part of the reason he threw his hat into the ring was because people wouldn't have expected that from him.
Yeah.
I think it made a huge difference. I have to say, I mean, taking that chance, but also having him be so serious and gritty. I kind of felt like, looking at it now, it was like Doctor was being taken seriously again. This isn't going to, because it was, towards the end of its run, there was a lot of mocking going off, and Doctor wasn't cool anymore. And it became the joke with the wobbly sets and everything. So I think there was this sense of we're taking it seriously. We've got this. Maybe not a big star, but a respected star. We are going to do this, in the proper way, and you're gonna like what you see. This isn't what you've seen before.
I suppose for the man in the street or the woman in the street, for the general viewing audience, it was a case of, I don't know that guy, I don't quite know that guy. But within the actual industry, it was kind of like a klaxon going off, wasn't it? A statement to be said. As Jane Tranter says there, here we are looking to take this show through the 21st century. This isn't just 13 weeks. They seem very clear from the outset, this isn't just going to be a 13-week thing. And here we are, 17 years later. Who would have thought it? Who would have thought it? Yeah, so obviously you were a young woman at the time with a few memories.
What do you mean where?
Oh dear. Cut.
I'm going to cancel you. You cancelled, Hadley.
Hashtag cancel Hadley. Yes, but at the time, you'd got a few memories, hadn't you, of Doctor Who, of watching it when you were kind of a child or in your early teens. So you were aware that Doctor Who existed and the general shape of it, kind of knew who this actor was and who wasn't. But it was kind of like a perfect storm that whisked you away, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's the perfect description. I'd seen the odd bits. I knew who Tom Baker was, and I'd seen Dimensions in Time. And what a way to start!
And you were still interested?
Because I used to be a really big EastEnders fan, because I'd watch EastEnders with my family. So it was like, what on earth's this? And I'd seen the TV movie. So I know about the police box. But there was something really, it tapped in like the current mood. But I mean, Russell T Davies always been good at doing this. He knows what the trends are. And I was 19 at the time. I was at university. Feeling a bit fed up. So Rose was like the perfect, conduit for that. I could see myself in her, like so many people could. And getting this chance to it, the trailers where she says, I've got a choice. I can stay at home with my mum, or I can go anywhere, and these adventures. And it would just, this looks really exciting. They can go anywhere. And yeah, it just really appealed to me, you know, like some fun fantasy, you know, on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was that kind of curiosity to me. So I was really coming to it quite new. And you know, it's a big thing because obviously, you know, I was a teenage girl at university, usually going out on a Saturday night, and I chose to, you know, stay in and watch this first.
And Rose Tyler was 19 at the beginning of the series, wasn't she?
She was, yes.
That chimes perfectly. And you are cosplaying her this very day, are you not? But do you want to tell everybody what's the ensemble?
Okay, so I've got the pink hoodie on and the grey top.
There
and I don't know if you can quite see. I'll do that. I've got the hoops in.
There we go. Attention to detail. That's what it's all about, isn't it? In the land of cosplay.
But yeah, because she was wearing things that, you know, we were wearing. You know, we had the terrible mascara because she wore so much eye makeup, didn't she, Rose? And you know, the bangles.
I suppose she did she?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah,
but we all did. Yeah. It was that. God, I know one of my friends, she had eyes like spiders' legs. She put that on.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and the stuff she was wearing, the hoodies, they were Punky Fish, which were quite a cool brand at the time. So yeah, it really did his best to make her this really, you know, relatable, believable character.
She'd got attitude without being obnoxious, I felt. I know some people out there heavily disagree. I know. But, you know, that's how I was an old man even then. No, I was in my early 30s then. And, you know, so obviously I was supposed to relate more so to the Doctor or to the people around her. Maybe more so to Jackie, actually, come to think of it, as a parent as well, you know. But yeah, I found her absolutely captivating, Billie Piper, in this role, and I'm not surprised at all that she had that desired effect. You know, everything, all the ingredients of Series 1, all of it, were very carefully measured and considered by Russell T Davies, Jane Tranter, Judy Gardner, all those people. And I think that Chris himself, he was stepping out of his comfort zone, but in a fearless way. Really, when you think about the actors out there, and I'm not going to name any names, who tend to stick to playing the same kind of parts, and we know that they play the same kind of parts, and that's kind of okay. Some of them have been the same part for 50, 60 years. Adam Wood yet, but you know, and that is okay. But when you see somebody as formidable as Christopher Eccleston, who'd got this pedigree and who was taken so seriously, stepping into a show that had been much loved, but had become a bit of a byword for everything that was naff in TV towards the end of its run and unfairly through the 90s, treated as this kind of cult campy joke, which I still don't think it ever was. I'm sorry, for all the people out there who love a bit of camp. I don't have a camp sensibility, Sarah. So for me, you know, although I didn't quite know what Chris was going to do with it, it did kind of, once I got used to the idea, it made me feel better. It made me feel secure. As secure as I'll ever be.
So what was the atmosphere? Because obviously, you know, you got your Doctor Who friends and you were part of these, you know, part of the fan community. I mean, was it excitement or was it
yes.
dread?
With Chris, yes, there was a lot of excitement. I'd say there was people saying, "Oh, I wish it had been so and so. Oh, why didn't they get Bill Nye? Oh, why didn't they get Paul McGann back? Oh, you know, there was a lot of that." But I think genuinely it was a case of, you know, this guy, he is this unknown quantity. He is very respected, and I think, you know what? I think the name Russell T Davies, even then, before a single second of it had made it to the screen, people trusted that writer, that voice, to know what he was talking. He'd been banging on about it, hadn't you, Russell, for about 6 years at that point. You know, and he'd been writing Doctor Who under any other name, really, in stuff like Dark Season up there. So I think that it was Russell's shoulders that we trusted that the weight would really rest on. And again, Chris mentioned that, didn't he, in that quote from 2004? He leans heavily into that. Don't blame me, blame him if this goes wrong. That is kind of how it sounds. But I know that's not how it was. I know that Chris Eccleston really did bring a lot of consideration and thought to it. I've got this quote from him at the time. I don't remember ever reading this at the time, but this is an interview from Christopher Eccleston in 2004, just after he was cast. And it says, if you wanted to be cynical about it, a lot of the work that I've done has been comfort food for liberals. What's dawned on me, I don't know what you mean, Chris. What's dawned on me about Doctor Who is that I'm trying to entertain a different audience. It's exciting and funny and scary, and it's aimed at families. So I'm kind of acting for children, and I feel very lucky to be able to do that. For all the danger the Doctor encounters, the basic message of the show is seize life. Be optimistic and see the positives. The series is written with passion and humour, and there's an innocence about it. It's a kind of celebration of life in all its forms. In everything the Doctor does, he is saying it's great to be alive. And I can hear people sneering about that, but that's what he believes, and it's a nice thing to say to kids or anybody at all for that matter.
What's nice about that is I always saw that it was a privilege to act for kids.
Very sweet, isn't it?
Because, not all actors are like that, and not all writers are like that. The child audience is something to be, locked down on or patronised. And it's only kids, you can do anything because, it's only kids. But no, it's not. Kids are not dumb, and they have their own taste just like everything else. And things like Russell and Stephen Moffat in particular, they know that, you couldn't, don't dumb it down to kids. They're not stupid, and they will, they can learn, big concepts and things that they'll get it and they'll run with it.
And I think that the reassuring presence that is the Doctor, that I think, and particularly when I look at actors like John Pertwee, the unflappable John Pertwee, somebody who was that commanding and that magnetic on screen. I think Chris knew, in a way, I don't think all actors have really known this and known how to play it, but I think that Chris knew what he was taking on and what people would see in him, and the side to his own nature that he could bring out, that heroism that we all like to think that character is inside us, don't we? I think he knew that he could project that, and that he could take audiences and take kids on that journey. He famously said that he didn't watch it when he was a kid. He used to say this over and over and over again. He never really watched the show, but he'd got some memories of it, but he was mostly out playing, He'd come in sometimes and catch some of it. But the fact that the character, that the worth of the character transmitted itself to him, and it made him, he made the call to Russell T Davies, I understand,
Yes.
What, consider me for this? Am I remembering right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. It's seen it, that they were looking for somebody. And he thought, I could do something with this. I could do something different.
Because he'd done, I think it was a case of the public's perception of him was that he was a miserable git. I think that's what. In fact, because he'd had a part in the League of Gentlemen with Mark Gatiss only a couple of years before, and he played quite a camp character. I think he played a theatre director of a small theatre company that had come to Royston Vasey, and he deliberately went for that role and said to Mark Gatiss, I want to have a laugh with this. I'm tired of everybody thinking that I'm this dour git who never smiles and can't have a laugh. And he did kind of prove that. And since, in the last couple of years, since Chris Eccleston has talked more about his time in Doctor Who, he's been quite critical of himself, hasn't he? That he feels that he didn't get the comedy quite right, that the part was still a work in progress, and that's a shame that he feels like that, isn't it?
It is, because we are our worst critics.
Yeah. So here we are in 2021, Sarah, and we've gone from 1 second coming to another. It's the return of the king, isn't it? It's Christopher Eccleston. This was the summer of last year, wasn't it? Christopher Eccleston was announced that he was returning to the role of the Ninth Doctor. How did that make you feel?
Oh, I was so giddy. Honestly, I felt like a little kid. Yeah, because we know what he's had quite a strange relationship in the past with Doctor Who. I mean, not quite Tom Baker level, but there was that feeling about it, and the fact that he's come back into the fold and just more 9 adventures. I mean, his departure was, it was far too soon. I don't know if we'll ever find out for sure what happened, but one series just wasn't enough for the 9th Doctor. So this is really exciting.
I don't think the phrase unfinished business has ever been more relevant than with Doctor Who for any of the leads. And, some of them haven't been treated very well, have they, in the past? But with Chris Eccleston, we knew so little and it was so sudden. And, of course, we do know more now. He's spoken at some length really quite recently, hasn't he? And Russell T Davies has spoken a little. But I think that's pretty much where they want to leave it all in the past and kind of get on with their lives. And I get the impression that Christopher Eccleston, as he talked about in his autobiography, it's called I Love the Bones of You, isn't it? That came out early last year, I think it was. He's talked about that, about his time on Doctor Who, but more about the impact, how that sort of fed in and out of his whole mental health struggle, I suppose you could call it, over most of his adult life, which it's not easy to read, that is it, when you hear about an actor that you admire and that you love, particularly in one role in particular, has suffered in that way. It's sobering, isn't it?
It is, and it's quite difficult actually, because it brought so much joy. I mean, not only did he brought the show back and he got new fans, including me, but I look back on that series and 2005, and I've just got so much joy from watching that and this world that he introduced me to, and knowing that he was suffering while he was filming, and he had these demons going off in these battles. Sobering's just the word. I think it makes you sit up and take notice, but I also think it makes you appreciate it all the more. He'd got a job to do. He's an actor, but I think he really did put his heart and soul into it. And I'm really happy that now he's looking back and he's been rewatching his episodes with his own kids.
Yeah,
I'm thinking, actually, I did all right with this. We did good, and he has now got this sense of pride. And instead of just looking at it and going, oh, that didn't work, or I didn't do the comedy right, he's enjoying being a viewer and spending time with his own kids. So I'm glad he's making happier memories, I think, now.
I think he's more holistic about it. And I think he says that the Doctor Who fandom has healed him since he made those first couple of convention appearances, which I think was the year before. It was only around 12 to 18 months before lockdown. He'd been at Gallifrey 1, hadn't he? After appearing at a couple of events where he'd just been signing things for people, signing pictures, posing for photographs. He then went and did a panel at Gallifrey 1, which I imagine was quite a brave thing to do, but he pretty much stormed it, and there was a rapturous response to the actor. And of course, on the release of his autobiography, he gave several interviews. We've got a quote here, which I think is really quite nice and shows the place that he's in now. So this was it was September 2019, so around the time the book came out. And Christopher Eccleston was at the TARDIS controls when Doctor Who spectacularly relaunched in 2005, but departed the revamped BBC Sci-Fi series after just 13 episodes. They keep rubbing it in, don't they? And he says, in his new memoir, I Love the Bones of You, My Father and the Making of Me, Eccleston recalls his time working on the show. And it says, Billy made Doctor Who a delight. But so also did Stephen Moffat's scripts, which delivered my best work, bringing me closer to finally knowing who the Doctor was than any other time during the shoot. Directors Joe Ahern and Euros Lynn also allowed the character to blossom and to thrive. He says of Joe Ahern there that he loved Joe, and if he directed the show from day one, I'd probably still be playing the Doctor now. So again, it's very pragmatic, isn't it? And very affectionate and very open in his love of the character and fondness for the time. So after all these years said where there was ambiguity, as somebody who loved that era and loved his Doctor, does that heal you too? Does that make it hurt less?
Yeah, it does. There's more understanding there, and I don't begrudge anybody. It's their life. You have to do what's the right time for you. But I'm glad he's come to realise this, and feeling the love. When he's been to this convention, people haven't forgotten.
No.
And and some of the kids, that are adults now, he's their first Doctor as well. He did capture a generation. I don't think he gets enough credit. I mean, I know we always talk about like the Tennant era being the golden era, and yet Tennant, he made Doctor Who, a global thing. It was super popular. But I mean, Eccleston brought it back. Without him, we wouldn't have had Tennant. So yeah, I think he needs to be credited with more than he has. Really, I think he's sometimes the forgotten New Who Doctor. We've spent a lot of time talking about Tennant and Smith, and not as much as him. And I think
because although David
Tennant, I want to do this to just kind of up that a bit, his contribution. Because
David Tennant, as much as we both love him, he took the baton on something that was a success. It's easier to inherit. I mean, maybe some would argue the point that inheriting success means that there's only one way that it can go, and that's down. But no, I don't think that was the case with this. I think the show and the concept and the supporting cast were there to cradle David Tennant and allow him to build. Whereas Chris getting into this from day one, it just wasn't like that, was it?
Yeah, I mean, they were very much finding the feet, and Tennant kind of came on quite a solid foundation. It feels like Eccleston did like all the work. I'm not saying Tennant didn't do any, because
obviously, great deal of it.
But I think a lot of the legwork was actually done. I would have just loved to have seen, another series or two. Because he really was. I mean, those final episodes, especially after the Empty Child and the Doctor dances, you could see he was really finding his groove.
Yeah,
who his character is.
And so, although you won't be able to see, you will be able to hear, won't you? When Big Finish released the first of these new sets of adventures for the Ninth Doctor, obviously. I'd say this is the Doctor Who event of the year, and I mean the Doctor Who event of the year against all others. I think all ears, if not eyes, will be on this first set of stories. We haven't got an exact date for their release yet. Big Finish, they do that, don't they? They tell us the month, so we know that this is out. This is out in May.
May, yeah.
But they sort of keep you guessing as to when exactly. But I think pre-orders have been available since around last April, something like that. But quite recently, we had this picture, didn't we? Christopher Eccleston, he tweeted this picture himself of him holding the front page of his very first Big Finish script. And, he may not have a big smile on his face, but his eyes are smiling. I think he knows the weight, the importance, the significance of this moment that he's sharing with his audience, doesn't he?
I think so, yeah. He's got a... smiling for Chris Eccleston.
I think it is, yeah. I think this picture is for you and for people like you who were there with him from day one, and he's saying, come with me again. That's essentially what it, to me, it suggests.
I love that it's the 2005 logo. Just makes it just so much better. It makes me so happy to see that logo again.
I didn't expect that, but there it is. Yeah, front of the script itself, underneath a huge spoiler warning there from Big Finish. Of course, it's been under lock and key, all of it, for much of the last 12 months. I think he only actually recorded this set around Christmas time. over a period of, say, 4 or 5 days, but it is all recorded, safely recorded now, and all from the pen and the mind, or the more likely the Mac of Nicholas Briggs. And we've got a press release here. Do you want to hear it? We've got story details for the first 3.
Yeah, go for it.
So here we are. We've got so it's called Doctor Who, The Ninth Doctor Adventures Ravagers. And the stories included in this first volume, this first box set of 3 stories. There's a first one, which is called Sphere of Freedom. And the little blurb says, on the Sphere of Freedom, the Doctor is about to shut down an evil, immersive games business empire. It sounds like the sort of thing the Ninth Doctor would get up to, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. He's assisted by valiant galley chef Nova, but his plan spectacularly even fails. And who exactly is Audrey? So it sounds like he's deep into mopping up after the Time War there. What do you think?
I think so, yeah. And again, I love this whole era because of how he was introduced to us in the series. There is quite a bit of scope, for him to have had these adventures before he met Rose. There's not much wiggle room, but there is some. It's
within the 13 episodes themselves. They're really quite tight, aren't they? But we can work backwards, or we can work out to the side, even, because the character, I'm not saying he didn't develop in those 13 weeks, but it's really nailed down, isn't it, the characterization? Because it simply had to be, didn't it, in 2005, to bring people such as yourself in.
It did, yeah. And yeah, there's definite arc to his character. There's definite arc to Rose. And Jack appearing as well. But yeah, there is scope, and I do like that deliberate vagueness. Although we know he did regenerate quite soon, because obviously he sees himself in Jackie's mirror. But yeah, there's a little bit of space to play around, and
Well, it could be that he just hadn't had time to look in the mirror, or hadn't even thought to. Because there are no mirrors in his console room, are there? It's as if, and the way that he dresses suggests to me that it's a less dandy Doctor who's less interested in preening himself. He just a lean haircut that's easy to maintain. Just pull on a sweater or a pullover, and pull on a jacket that's that's tough and thick and will do in all weathers. It's very, very functional. Same with the Doc Martens. I can honestly think that he could have been the Doctor for a few years and never have ever looked in the mirror the whole time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was there could have been a psychological aspect to it. I mean, would you want to look at yourself in the mirror after you'd done what you'd don't know what you'd experienced? But yeah, it does give you that thing of is living at breakneck speed from one adventure to the next. So yeah, that's absolutely possible.
And that's why I think that when you're looking at slotting other adventures in between that, or doing anything with the character at all, you have to be just as nailed down and very clear about the kind of stories that you want to tell specifically with this Doctor. Because I think that more than any other, if it's a generic Doctor Who storyline, it's going to really come across. It's going to be really, really obvious, and people will be underwhelmed, and the actor is not going to have been engaged. It's so I think Nick Briggs has written all 3 of these, and we've got the second one here. This is called Cataclysm, and it says Nova is dislocated in time while the time eddies are out of control. Meanwhile, the Doctor is about to face the end of the universe, or is it just the Battle of Waterloo? So again, this reminds me. This seems to line up to me with something like Father's Day, where the Reapers are kind of mopping up as well after the time. All right, they're opportunists, and they're vicious and they're animalistic. And here we're talking about a woman who is dislocated in time, and time eddies. And if we know what time eddies are, they're little sort of bolt holes and nooks that the first Doctor's trapped in a time eddy, isn't he, when they send him back in the Three Doctors. So the idea that there's these little pockets of time that are out of control, that also, I'm thinking, yes, this is the Ninth Doctor's universe. This is his territory. This is the kind of thing that he'd do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and again, it shows you how seriously it's being taken. And again, with Eccleston being how he is, he wouldn't just accept any old script.
No.
So I am sure that Nick Briggs has, done some top-notch writing. Because if the quality wasn't there, Eccleston wouldn't have done it.
It does make me wonder exactly what because obviously if they are going to look to develop the character somehow and to give the actor sufficient variety of material to flex his muscles, because I suppose if you're an actor and you're used to performing more so for the cameras and you're there rooted to the spot at the moment, either in a very tiny studio under strict COVID protocol conditions, or recording from your own home, you're in a really tiny area. So I think that the trick could be to give the actors a variety of material too, to have more fun with it, to flex dramatic and comedic chops. And that's why I'm wondering about the third story, which is called Food Fight. And it says the TARDIS is starting to get a little crowded. Audrey finds herself haunted by a ghostly doctor. That's the blurb we've got for that. It's all again. It says serious, but a title like Food Fight. I think, who knows? Maybe.
Yeah. It sounds like
having more fun with that.
Yeah, sounds like the more light-hearted one in the box set.
Maybe because. And phrases like Food Fight as well. You think, okay, that sounds fun. It sounds like the kind of thing that the Doctor would sort of shout. That this Doctor in particular would shout at the top of his voice for whatever reason. There you go. There's Food Fight. So yeah, all these new adventures have been released with brand new artwork, and this is by Tom Webster with Aidan Wilkinson. Aidan's the creator known as TARDIS Man all over Twitter and Facebook, expert at those blue boxes. And Tom Webster himself has been creating artwork for Big Finish for years and years and years and years now, and just beautiful stuff. And I think that both of them have gone next level on this new set of stories. It evokes that time, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I was just thinking the colour scheme, the gold and the orange, and then the blue of the TARDIS. Yeah, makes you feel all nostalgic.
Well, this is it. It does. And, for all that people will complain, not least of all me, I think we've both done it, about all merchandise carrying the logo of its respective eras. And, we've just seen that picture of Chris Eccleston with the script. You've noticed the logo there. The fact that they're using the current branding on it, I think it's not the end of the world. It's still... I can live with that. I can live with that.
I can overlook it because it's such a piddly little thin rubbish logo. you don't notice it. It does not do what a logo is supposed to do. And I don't even work in graphic design. But yeah, I can overlook it. But yeah, I would have preferred the proper logo.
And it says here, all 4 volumes of the Ninth Doctor Adventures are being released over a certain period of time. That's the plan. There's going to be 4 of these box sets, but we've got this first one initially, which will be available in 3 formats. You've got collector's edition CDs, the digital download, the Big Finish are obviously moving more towards now, or a limited edition gatefold triple LP vinyl set, which is exclusive to www.bigfinish.com. And Big Finish listeners can save if you order the entire lot as early as you can, and you can save more. I think it's £88 the collector's set as CDs, with £78 as a download, and the vinyls themselves are limited to 1,000 per volume, and they're going to work out at £35.99 each, or you can order them all for £132 in a bundle in a bundle too. I think the episodes themselves are being slightly recut for vinyl somehow. I don't know how that's going to work. An episode on the side or whatever. Who knows? I'll have to wait and find out about that. But they're exciting times, aren't they, Sarah? And I think that all those dramatic possibilities now. Who knows where this could end? You've got this definite set of 4 volumes, but we know what happened with Paul McGann. He loved recording so much. He came back, and then he came back, and then he came back, and now the man is a fixture on audio. Can you see that happening for Chris Eccleston?
I'd like to think so, especially at the current time.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound cynical, but it could be his only acting gig for a while. And obviously, how Big Finish operates, it's a lot easier to do than film on TV. But yeah, I mean, I think. I don't know if I'd say the possibilities are endless, because obviously we have to kind of work around what's gone on screen. Obviously with McGann, there's much more freedom. But yeah, I don't see why he shouldn't be doing this for a few years. As long as the writing's up to scratch. I'm still in hope that one day he's gonna he's gonna come back on screen. Not right at this. maybe in about 10 years.
Comes back for the 70th. I think the more that he plays the part, however and wherever, and the more that he interacts with the fandom, and we can all sweet talk him over a period of years, it's perfectly legal, it's perfectly allowed, because he obviously is responding to the warmth of the fan base.
Mm-hmm.
And that's only going to increase when these releases, presuming they're any good. This could be. I'm putting a lot of faith here in Nick Briggs. I think that man, he knows how to construct great stories that are really listenable, and what makes a damn good adventure. It's a good, safe pair of hands to start this off with, and there's so many other great writers as well at Big Finish, who I'm sure will be able to build from this. So my instinct is that, pre-sales of this must have been through the roof, but I do think that people are going to be thrilled by what they hear. And there could be as well people out there who maybe haven't tried audio before that may try these.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody's into Big Finish, and the catalogue is so immense. It is difficult to know where to start, if you're not into it. But I mean, yeah, exactly. This having the Ninth Doctor, it will encourage some people to come in. I mean, like the recent stuff, like with River Song, and Missy, and the Paternoster Gang. Or that it's another way of getting fresh fans in.
Would you like to hear Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor with Alex Kingston as River Song? Are you up for that kind of thing?
Yes, I know. I'd like to. It'd be funny to watch or listen to, but if she's just going to get silly and start, talking down to him like she was starting to do with it. It depends who's writing.
Because potentially all the toys that are in Big Finish's box, the Ninth Doctor, he's unlikely to go forward and interact with somebody like Amy Pond or with Bill Potts, but potentially the Ninth Doctor could meet the Brigadier, as played by John Coleshaw. He could meet Tegan, as played by Janet Fielding. He could interact with any one of a number of people. So is it anybody like that, or dare we say, eventually doctors, but villains and supporting characters? Is there anybody in your wish list that you'd like to hear the Ninth Doctor opposite? I've got one.
I'd probably say the Master, because we've not. I think that would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I know it's a really obvious one, and but yeah, just to see that dynamic. Because I don't think the Ninth Doctor would have been as sympathetic as Tennant's Doctor was with the Master, or maybe you wanted, if you still thought it was still the last one. I thought that could be really interesting.
Which Master would you think, though? Oh. Eric Roberts, Derek Jacobi.
Derek Jacobi would be good.
Yeah.
But I think he'd be good against John Sim. Then you'd have two Northerners together, then, wouldn't you?
Yeah, because when I picture John Sim, particularly in the Tennant era, it's when he also had the cropped hair.
Yeah.
It kind of looked like his little brother, didn't he?
Yeah. There'd be definitely some fun to be had with that.
Yeah, I'd be so up for that. And both stars of Cracker as well, John Sim and Christopher Eccleston.
Of course, yeah.
I'm very excited to hear about the new companions, because obviously Rose is such a huge part of 2005, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Of that whole time, those 13 episodes. It's, in a sense, Sarah, the Ninth Doctor without Rose is kind of unimaginable.
It is very difficult to imagine, because of the impact she had, all the the different faces that we saw of all the sides of his personality. That was through Rose, slowly teasing them out and making him warm up again to humans, and people in general. He was so closed off, so it's going to be interesting to see how he is, how he interacts with other people and other possible companions.
Because really, Rose was she was his co-lead, wasn't she? She wasn't, even though she was second in the credits. After, somebody's got to go first. Like, both names can't pop. But I do feel that it was a show that was led by two actors when it came back in 2005, and so with half of that missing. Doctor Who has continued to evolve since then too, and has arguably become a show that is led by the one central character again. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't always the case, and they are pairing him with these two new characters on audio, talk about having big boots to fill, or plimsolls to fill. Mm-hmm. This is Nova. Nova on the left here will be played by Camilla Beput, and she's a galley chef from the Sphere of Freedom. We heard about that in the brief synopsis for the very first episode in the new box sets. And Camilla said, "I mean, it's Doctor Who, isn't it? It's iconic, it's energetic, it's full of action, and I really enjoy doing it," she says. And she says, "Chris is great. He's so warm and friendly, the kind of person that I instantly felt like I'd known for ages. He's got such an enveloping warmth around him." So she's a fan.
Yeah.
And that's Jane McKenna on the right, who plays Audrey, who's the oldest gamer in Freedom City. There we go. And she says, "I love the script. It's the first time I've been in something like this. It's just fantastic. What's lovely is working with people that are so invested in this and having a chance to play a character at different stages of her life. It's a great gift to an actor." So these are the two. These are the two ladies that are going to attempt to fill that side to the dynamic, that portion of it. And they've gone for actors here who are a little older. Neither of them are going to, I wouldn't imagine, unless they're playing 19-year-olds. They've gone for women. They've gone for women rather than girls, haven't they?
Yeah, and to be fair, that's probably the best way to go. I think if you had a teenage character, it's going to, best will in the world, it's still going to be like a poor imitation of Rose. Like, you can't help but go that way. So to have some really different people, it sounds good. It sounds really interesting, and I love they sound impassioned, and they sound like they really love the stories, and they're not using it as a platform. That's refreshing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is nowadays. At one point, that would have been a given, but no, it is just nice to hear people talking about character, talking about story, talking about Doctor Who, the thing that's actually the driving thing here. Well,
absolutely,
because people are going to have to they want people to spend their money, don't they? They want people to invest their finances in pre-ordering these titles, committing to this line of merchandise. And that's something that I do feel that certain institutions kind of take for granted because they haven't got to worry about whether they've got our money or not. But that could be a topic for another time. Christopher Eccleston has also been speaking about it too, as you can imagine. He's given several interviews, and he's been promoting these. To be fair to him, he has been doing more than his fair share to talk the projects up. So we've got there's a picture of him there. So he's been putting pictures out on his own Instagram. But he says it was lovely coming back to play the role again. Due to Nicholas's writing, I was surprised at how very quickly I seemed to recall the choices I'd made 15 years ago. It was an odd experience. The Ninth Doctor's still hanging around. So I suppose for an actor, I heard some people say, after that quote, what does he mean by that? The choices, does he mean the choice to leave? And I took it that he meant the artistic choice.
Yeah, that's how I would have.
The nuances to the character.
Yeah.
It must be like muscle memory, Sarah. When you play these parts again and respond to similar material. You're the actor. You're working.
I would think so. And it's nice, that he says that he could remember the beats and that there is a part of the Doctor that hasn't left him, because this is what the show's like. Doctor Who doesn't leave you.
You can try, you can run, but you can't hide, all that stuff. In himself, he thinks he's going to get out of this one. I'm absolutely. Well, I'm counting the weeks to listen to this, and I wouldn't say that's the first I've felt about Big Finish in a while, because last year, the Tom Baker and David Tennant story, amongst others, there were several high points last year and the year before. I do think that Big Finish do manage to go next level in one respect every year, but to pull something like this in particular together at this time, as we hopefully in the UK certainly be coming out of a third lockdown around this time. So again, it's something else to look forward to, and something to remind us of that. I think it was a hot summer in 2005 as those 13 episodes spilled out. Can you remember exactly what it was like out?
Yeah, but it was, I remember that summer. They did an exhibition at Brighton on the pier, and they'd borrowed some props and costumes from the Blackpool Museum, and then they displayed the new stuff. So there was a couple of Slovene, there was Cassandra. They had a revolving TARDIS display unit, and it had got the Ninth Doctor's costume and this Rose's get up. And I took my nephew. We went that summer. So it was again, things like that. It just evokes such happy memories, and and that's all we had, before the Doctor experience. So it was, it was.
Do you think that even though Doctor Who was instantly successful, it was hugely successful from night one back in 2005, but for all the billboards and everything else that was going on at the time to whip us up and to hype it up a little bit, it was less corporate generally. There was something quite cozy about it all.
Yeah, there was. It was just kind of just let the art speak for itself. There was. It was just the series that there wasn't all the, I don't know what you call it, like
circus around it.
Yeah. There was there's the certain interviews that you had to do, but I don't think it was kind of shoved in your face that much.
And the character was able to, even though we did find out that Chris was leaving the role within 48 hours of appearing on screen, which is very regrettable. It was like a torpedo to the chest, that was, to the heart of every Doctor Who fan. And I'm not blaming you, Chris, not at all. But they didn't have to leak that. Whoever found that out, you didn't have to put that in the papers, did you? You could have held on to that. But now that could have gone one of two ways, couldn't it? It could have just made people think, oh well, I'm not going to bother watching the rest of this then. If the guy's leaving, then what's the point? But it had actually had the opposite effect, and people were kind of fascinated that this thing was only going to be around. This candle was going to burn fast for a period of just 3 months. It felt like we were given forewarning of how and when to catch this lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
And I think people relished every single week. How did you receive it?
I was really sad because I just started liking him, and and I just thought it was so strange. But yeah, I didn't want to stop at all. I wanted to see how it was going to play out, how it was going to end. The other fascinating thing, of course, was alongside this we had Doctor Who Confidential, and again, that was absolutely fascinating. And I think this is what the thing about it being less corporate, because it was about how the show was made, how it was produced. But I remember there was so much emphasis on what it had been and, what it took to get it back and everything that went in. And I think it just made you appreciate it all the more. It felt like it wasn't just a TV show. It was like a proper institution again, which of course it had been, but for my generation, we didn't know. So there was like this feeling of this isn't just a TV show. There's something more going on, and it just became a national thing. There were papers about it and articles, and it was like the water cooler thing. You talk about it. Oh, what's going to happen next week, and especially when it was a two-parter. I remember I was doing some work experience in a school, and it was the week after The Empty Child and the Doctor Dancers, and there were kids running around going, "Are you my mummy?" and it's stuff that we'd not seen for years. I just felt like, especially in Britain at the time, it was like Doctor Who fever again.
Fever? Yeah, I think that is not an exaggeration. It was like that. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody seemed completely invested in Rose, and more importantly for the long term, in the Doctor, in Doctor Who, in the question Doctor Who. People were hypnotized, I think, by Christopher Eccleston's choices, those choices that he made back in 2004 when he was recording the show, and got what the character was actually about, what he represented. And this is aside from the accent, from the clothes, and everything else that tended to get people's attention from the get-go. Human beings, we're visual creatures, and this is television. It's a visual medium. So when something looks different to how it has done before, no period costume, no fancy hair. Doctor Who is a hair part, as Paul McGann will tell you. Doctor Who is a hair part. and Chris Eccleston had less of it than any of his predecessors. And yes, it's a stripped back performance, and it absolutely burns. But it burns fast, and it burns very, very bright for those 13 weeks. And although I've seen Christopher Eccleston in things since, which I've enjoyed, this performance in this character, of course, it's always going to mean the most to me, because the Doctor did anyway. I saw him in Cracker years before. The man reduced me at that time. I was a very cynical teenager when I saw that, and he reduced me to tears. It was an incredible performance. He scared the life out of me in Shallow Grave, which was only a couple of years later. Danny Boyle's first big theatrical film, with Hugh McGregor's in that, isn't he? Wonderful, wonderful film. In fact, I could go and watch that again now. It's awesome. And yet here he was playing my childhood hero, Sarah. It was, at the time, it felt like, is there anything this guy can't do? Like I said, when he was announced, I wasn't over the moon, but I wasn't disappointed either. And so I was at the perfect middle point, and I think because of that, he really delivered for me too. So if we represent different sides to Doctor Who fandom, and we both feel pretty much the same about the man and the character, albeit for different reasons, then I think Christopher Eccleston is probably one of the most successful actors who's ever taken the role in what he was tasked to do at the time in 2004 when he was employed.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, look at him in that. Look at that image. It's so simple, but but it just radiates that, that gravitas, that authority. You can see the heroism as well.
This is unused artwork, believe it or not. This is by Lee Binding for Tea Lady Design. And now we're used to seeing Lee's work on the classic series Blu-rays and in the complete history part work from Hachette and Panini. So this guy, we love his art. Brilliant composition. But this was artwork that was intended for the Series 1 steelbook, the Blu-ray steelbook, a couple of years ago, and was rejected in favor of a simpler design. But I just thought this was absolutely stunning. And Lee, I really think you should turn it into a poster print or whatever else.
Gosh,
I would have that up in my house. I sincerely would. So while we've got you on Series 1 and in this nostalgic mood, just as a final thought, I wondered if you can pick for me 3 standout Christopher Eccleston moments from his time as the Doctor, of his performance in particular, that hit you at the time or that have stayed with you over time, or even something that you see something very specific in. It could be completely subjective. It doesn't have to be the low-hanging stuff. Just give me 3 great Doctor Who moments.
Talk about putting me on the spot. No,
it's what I do best, Sarah.
Okay. His monologue no, it's not a monologue. When he's talking to Rose in Rose.
Yeah.
When he's talking about the turn of the earth. I know everybody quotes this, but it's such a simple scene, and he sells it. He sells it that it's otherworldly, and that you really do believe that he can feel the earth moving, and how he speaks, and how his face changes, and how Rosa's face changes as she's listening to him. You can see she's been suckered in. She's no longer the cynical person. It's just beautiful, and it really just he conveyed that age. I mean, I had no idea how old the Time Lord was, but there's something there behind those eyes that suggests this guy has got wisdom. It's just beautiful.
Yes, I've got that down as one of mine.
You got one. It's going to be interesting.
And the reason being the whole turn of the earth thing again. I think, like everybody, you remember, just as he says, when you are a kid and you realize that the earth is turning. And that the power of that to connect, to speak to every child, because there will have been children watching that episode that had only noticed the turn of the earth that week, or maybe even that day.
Yeah.
And there's the Doctor referencing that and saying, you know that thing that you see? Well, I see it too. But on top of that, I can feel this. You think, whoa, the weight of that, the way that lifts, that says, I am like you, but I'm something else too. And that's the Doctor. And for all that I've said, I don't think that the Doctor really should have a regional accent of any kind. I think it humanizes the character too much. Great length was gone to within this episode and subsequent ones to add what maybe could have been taken away by the lots of planets have a north kind of approach. This wasn't a human being. He is from somewhere else. And I love that moment. Just so we don't repeat ourselves, I would say another moment that I like, really simple moment, also in Rose, where Rose finally enters the TARDIS and he stood there with his hands in his pockets, just atop of the little gantry by the console. And she says to him, it's alien. He's, yeah. Are you alien? Yeah. and then he just says, is that all right? Just the most normal. Is that all right? He goes, yeah. And for me, that moment as well. So that's my first moment. I just love the way that he plays it so totally deadpan, like in your own time, love. I'm not going anywhere. This is the truth. This is who I am. You can catch me up. Yeah, I just love that. What's your second one? Or should I tell you mine?
Well, I'm going to tell you mine. Well, I have some more thinking time. It's narrowing it down.
My second one is the scene in World War III where the Doctor, Rose, and Jackie, and I think Mickey as well, are holed up inside number 10, while Margaret Slevine is on the other side of the corridor of the door, and he shut them all inside, hasn't he? He shut them all inside this sort of inner room at number 10 Downing Street, and she's basically told him what the plan is, and he's worked it out. She's told him, filled in the blanks, and it's like, who's going to stop me? You in your box. I'm going to stop you. I just love that moment again. Really, really simple, and that's who the Doctor is, and he doesn't overact it at all. No. Which I think some of our beloved Doctors, they overact moments like that. And some of them flail around like they don't know what they're doing, naming no names. But Chris just kept it. It's like he's containing something the whole time.
Yeah, and you see how Margaret looks. I mean, first she's laughing at him, and then he just gives that look, and she's worried. She's worried when she can see that the conviction in his eyes and in his voice, that he is serious, that he believes that he can do this. So maybe I should start believing it too. Yeah. Okay, I thought mentioning Margaret, the scene in the restaurant in Boomtown.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a brilliant sequence anyway, as it goes from comedy when she's trying to kill him, but the real nitty gritty stuff where when he gets under her skin and she gets under his as well, and like he knows. I mean, she even says only a murderer would know that.
Yeah.
And again, it's another interesting facet of the Doctor. And like this Doctor's killed. This Doctor's been to some dark places, and and he goes through all the kind of like mentality of, one day you just let them go because she's got freckles or he smiled, and that's how you live with yourself. And it was a really sobering moment for the character and for the viewer. I mean, we up to this point it was, the Doctor's a hero, is the good guy, and it's what has he done, or what is he capable of?
Yeah.
What happened in his past? Because obviously, like in every episode, you'd got the Time War dangling, and every so often we'd drip fed things, and it was like, what has he been through? What's he had to do? And
for that split second, we go from being very much in the Doctor's corner and on his shoulder to flipping, and we can see him as Margaret can see him.
Yeah.
And feel the fear. What's your third one?
The end of Bad Wolf, when they've got the transmission working, and they found the signal, and they realise it's the Daleks, and his face of, you can see it is absolutely terrified, and you can see him like mentally reinforcing himself and psyching himself up to talk to them again. And he's just brilliant, and he says that, to the Daleks, no, I'm not. This is what I'm going to do. It's like, sod you, sod your plans. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to defeat you, and I'm going to rescue Rose Tyler. And you're just like, and that's how it ended. That was the last thing. Like, everyone's going, yeah, Commander.
Yeah, it's a magic cliffhanger to Bad Wolf, isn't it? To episode 12. Absolutely, yeah. Total sort of punch the air moment, and the 7 days in between that and the finale they seem to really, really drag for me. And I was old enough to know better. For me, my moment is also mine's from Parting of the Ways, my third moment, and it's the bit where he's got Rose Tyler in the TARDIS, telling her to hold something down on the TARDIS console.
Yeah.
And do this, do that. I'll be back in a jiffy, or whatever he says. And he runs out. He runs out of the TARDIS, out back onto Satellite 5, and we see him run out at full pelt, and then he stops dead center in the floor. The expression on his face changes. His entire body language changes. His arms, his shoulders slope down, and we see the look on his face, and we realize what he's about to do when he sort of turns around and uses the sonic screwdriver to dematerialize TARDIS, to send Rose away, to send Rose back to safety, because he realizes there's every chance that he's gonna meet his final death on Satellite 5. It's, again, he says very little. It's all in the performance, all in the body language, and in his eyes. And at the moment, it gives me goose pimples just thinking about it. I've got them now, everybody. Live goose pimples here on Type 40, everybody.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking for him. It's heartbreaking for her. Then the Murray Gold starts with his music.
Yes. Yeah, and before Murray Gold went really orchestral too, so it's really quite haunting and quite simple. There's a simple beauty to that music in that first one. Absolutely glorious stuff. This is a hard act to follow, Chris, and you, Nick Briggs, and everybody else involved in the stuff that's coming with the Ninth Doctor from Big Finish, but we're very much in your corner. And I've pre-ordered. I hope you have too. And,
I have. I was all over that.
And we hope you have out there as well, because we'll be returning to the Ninth Doctor when this box set, Doctor Who, the Ninth Doctor's Ravagers, is released. We'll be doing a full review on Type 40, so expect lots of coverage of that from us, because we love Christopher Eccleston, and we love Doctor Who as much as you do. Get in touch and let us know what you think. Have we got it right? Have we got it all wrong? What have we missed? What are your top 3 Ninth Doctor moments? What's stuck in your head? Do you agree with us, or is this something that we haven't name checked, we haven't mentioned? There's lots to choose from. Let us know in the comments section on YouTube, or get in touch. Get in touch through our social medias if you like. Instagram and Twitter at Type40Doctor Who, or Type40Doctor@gmail.com on the email. Oh, pardon me. No, that wasn't lunch. That's the old girl kicking in and calling time on another conversation. But we'll be back with another Type 40. Look out for that wherever you found this. Could have been on the new Type 40 podcast feed, hosted at type40.podbean.com, for example. Could be over there. Or you can hear us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn. We're on practically everything now, including YouTube, the world's largest streaming platform. Of course, you can download the Podbean app and find us there. Keep us in your pocket. We're still on the Fandom Podcast Network's incredible master feed. Of course we are, with all those other fantastic shows. fbnet.podbean.com for all of that. As ever, get in touch if you like through those social medias. And if you feel really, really brave and fancy some real-time, extra-dimensional chit-chat, step into the Type 40 Facebook group. So, Sarah, you're acting very, very soon. You're due your curtain call. But where else can people watch that? And where can people hear you performing these various roles across time and space? What's the name of the channel again?
The channel is The Geek Inside. And you'll find the videos are called The Script Doctors Live. And Planet of the Fire will be this Sunday. And that's, I've got to get this right, at 4 p.m. UK time, 11 a.m. EST. I'm terrible with the time differences.
There you go.
You can also find me on Doctor Who Chat Live. I'll be there on... Well, it'll be today. It'll be Friday. Tonight we are talking about Patrick Troughton and all things the Second Doctor. I've also been on Blue Bonnet Hoovin's channel. We've been taking a look at some more Bob Holmes stories. Had a lot of fun with that. And I dressed up as Mary Tam because...
Well, why not?
Yeah. I adore Mary Tam. And then you will find me next week on here with you and the guys.
Yes.
Oh, yes, looking forward to that.
More Starry Eyed Girl than you can possibly imagine. A sky full of Starry Eyed Girl. And you can find me. I'm scattered across all of space and time, but mostly on Twitter and Instagram as the Space Book, where I am wheezing, groaning, and posting about whatever catches my eye, my imagination, or both in popular culture that's inside and outside of the TARDIS. There's links to all of that in the show notes, in the description of this video too. We always have the time if you have the space here on Type 40. More soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
And... there we are. That was fun.
That was fun, yeah. God, that went